It's Simon with ToughTrader.com. Wanted to do a trade review for Friday, and what I wanted to cover in this is why having a trade plan laid out the evening before, knowing and having specific locations where you want to trade makes a huge difference in your trading day and how you're looking at the price action, because it takes you away from looking at every tick, right? And it changes you into a point where you're trading from strategy. So this is how I want to show how I set up both the short and the long on ES for Friday is what we're going to do. So we're going to show you how we set it up beforehand, how we traded it in real time, right? And why that's important and how you can duplicate the same process, hopefully in your own trading, right? So first, let's get started. So the white zones, for those of you who are new, the white zones are my most critical area. So if it's not a specific 2 points like this is I'll draw it out for you. This is a zone, 2 points together, right? Usually they're about 2 points wide, sometimes a little bit less. This is a zone, this is a zone. So we come in on the day. And before we get started, I always forget this part. I have to pop it out there. Past performance is not indicative of future results, right? Don't trade with money you can't afford to lose. You can lose a lot of money trading futures if you don't know what you're doing. You won't hear me saying it's easy. You've got to be prepared. You've got to know what you're doing. And lastly, this is for educational purposes only and not a recommendation to buy or sell any particular financial instrument. Okay, so if you'll look the evening before, this was printed on November 2nd for November 3rd. This is the private Twitter feed. And what you'll see here is as I posted the chart, which if you look in detail on this particular, let's see here, those are all the posts for today, for Monday. Let me get down here. So what you will see is I put ES, and if you look at that closely, so you'll see that that was posted on the, let's blow this up so everyone can see it. And time-wise, it's posted at 7:08 on November 2nd for Friday, right? And what you'll see, as I said, I usually don't say this, but if we open or push into 2578 to 2580, I'll be looking for responsive sellers there, right? So that's the first step. I already know before I come in that I'm looking, if we open up just at or underneath that location, that I'm willing to take risk, right? I can go back to my chart at this point and I can calculate, okay, 2578 to 2580. I want to leave enough room behind so that it doesn't just whipsaw out and come back in, but at the same time lets me survive. So I'm going to give two examples of that, of what it looks like when it works and what it looks like when it doesn't work. So when it works, right, which is quite often, the white zone's there for a very specific reason. We open up and we push right into this location. You can see there's a wick there. I don't know if it's so small that everyone can't see it, so I'm going to remove this. You'll see we wicked right into that 2578 to 2580. So off the open, I'm short. What's my target to the downside? This is the volume point of control, but that 2573.50 is my ultimate target. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. On ES, every market has a natural rotation. For example, on CL, it's usually about 40 ticks. NASDAQ, it's about 30 ticks on the NASDAQ 100. And on ES, it's 7 to 10 points. So if I look at 2580 and I take away 7 to 10 points, it's about 2573 is the neighborhood. So I know I can probably, if I'm going to stretch, I can stretch down there, and the market has a reason to stretch to this location. I'm not going to go into that right now, but it has a reason to stretch. And as I covered in the market preview, this is an area where we're looking to get long, right? So you can see we open up, I'm short, and we make our initial stretch down. I am covering parts of the position as we roll down like this, because I don't ever know for a fact where the market's going, obviously. I just have a good idea. And then it comes down, pushes right into the ticket to 2573.50. And again, this was posted the evening before, right? It's really nice when you get it to the tick. I actually prefer not to have it to the tick. I would have rather seen it push to 75.73 or 75.72.50. It gives me more time to both put in more size and work the trade through this area, as opposed to having to be tick perfect. It looks cool on paper. It actually isn't so cool in real-time trading. I'd rather it push beyond that point or have the zone further up. Either way, I'd like a little bit of lag room in between there to pick up the trade, right? So what does it look when it doesn't work, right? Well, it could have easily looked like this area right in here. This is where I'm working at. And I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to show what it would have opened up into this area when it doesn't work, right? dated sideways. Now notice this is the second push into this zone, but it still gives us a good idea of what it looks like when it doesn't work. I would have ended up taking the same risk, 2578 to 2579 area, and it stays here for 5, 10, 15, 20. And all it rejects down out of this area is about a point. So have we pretend for a second like this was the market, the zone would have done its job, right? It holds the market down for 20 minutes. It doesn't progress. It gives me plenty of time both to get into the position and to do analysis. But what I want the trade to look like is what it looked like off the open. And there are some distinctions you can't forget about, like this was the first time into the location, so I had a stronger weighting in that area than it would have on the second time. But I want to give people an idea of what it looks like when it works and when it doesn't work. And the closeout would have simply been when the bar closed behind right here, when it closed behind the zone, I know it's time to go home. And again, the stop is usually 2 points behind the zone or whatever the close is behind that location. I'm usually pretty comfortable closing out the trade at that point. Again, the objective is to get as close to a 1-to-1 risk reward or better that I could have had. So if you'll see, this rotation from 79 to 73.50 was approximately, let's just call that 5 points, give or take 5.5. And my risk here was approximately 4 points. So I have a 1-to-1 risk location. Again, when you got down in here, I wasn't quite quick enough. I covered my short into 73.50 and I did not flip long. However, multiple members in the room did get long 73.50 who chose not. A lot of people don't like to short out of the gate. They did get the long out of 73.50. I was just too focused on covering my short to get the long. And again, you'll see they took absolutely no heat. You can see that within 5 to 10 minutes, you actually got a rotation from 73 all the way up to 70, almost 78, almost 5 points of rotation again to the upside. And if you left your trailers, you can see that the market moved out all day long until we got to our next resistance point, right? Where it was from 25.83.50 to 25.85.50. Now, you could look at that zone and go, well, the zone didn't work. But in actuality, it did, right? If you look through the process of the highest odds, first touch into the zone, rejection out. First touch into the zone, rejection out. This zone had already been tested once, so we knew there was a possibility that the possibility of failure is higher on the second touch, right? And then what does it do? The market grinds very slowly right to its next resistance location. We trade sideways, right? And while it doesn't really give a big rejection out, it did turn into a trend day down. And had you shorted the front of that zone, you had multiple opportunities to cover for either very little loss or a slight profit, either way. So that's how the zones work. That's how it works when you have a plan that you put out in advance. You have a pretty good idea of what you want to do, so you're not panicked right out of the gate. If you're not uber aggressive, not taking the short out of the gate is certainly understandable. But as I said in the evening notes and again in the market preview in the room, which I said was like, I usually don't say this, but if we open or push into 78 to 80, I'll look for responsive sellers there, right? And then again, the very next note was, if your strategy is long, very simply, wait. First thing I said, wait for the push down and for location. And then I gave one more note. I said, if we gap above this area, right, use the same location for long. So I want to show that again. So I had all three scenarios covered, right? I said if we open below, I was shorting into it. If I opened above, I was getting long to catch the swing up. And the last piece was, if I wanted the long and I wasn't interested in shorting, which a lot of traders in a bull market, totally understandable, don't want to be there, you get your location right there at 73.50. And by the way, I know it was to the tick. 490 contracts went off, and I can tell you, I was watching the bid because I was trying to get covered there. We went all the way down to 20 contracts. So almost anyone who had a bid sitting there at 73.50 got filled. I can't imagine, I don't know anyone who didn't get filled who was trying to get that location. And you ended up with a potential from 73.50 all the way up to 85. That's that's 10, 12 points. It's a nice trade. It's almost $600 a contract. So anyways, congratulations to everyone who made money. Learn to trade with a plan, a structure, and a discipline, and you too can learn to trade profitably. So anyways, my name is Simon. If you'd like to come try our room out for a couple of days, 5 days on me, send me an email to trade, TRADEN, as the letters in Nancy, perform, PERFORM, all one word, @gmail.com, and send me your Twitter account name, and I will be happy to extend you a 5-day free trial. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. I hope everyone made money last week. Should be a really interesting, productive week next week, and I anticipate having a good week. We'll talk to you later, and thank y'all for joining. Have a good day.